Hey everyone, Osman here, back with another video. I am going to be doing another comic book news video talking about the casting for the new Kraven the Hunter movie. Chameleon is another villain that is actually going to be brought into the fold, and so there's been casting news about that just revealed. So I'm going to be reading an article about it from CBR. Reading the article, and then after that giving my thoughts and sort of giving some explanation as to who the Chameleon is, and sort of my sort of understanding of the character, and my history of knowing who the character is and everything like that. So before we move on to anything else, don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget to also leave a comment as well, letting me know, your thoughts. Kraven the Hunter casts Chameleon for Sony's Spider-Man spinoff. White Lotus star Fred Hechinger, probably mispronounced that, sorry about that, boards Sony Spider-Man spinoff Kraven the Hunter as Kraven's half-brother Dmitry Smerdyakov /Chameleon. Kraven the Hunter has found another star. According to Deadline, White Lotus Fred Hechinger will place Sergei Kravenov /Kraven the Hunter's half-brother Dmitry Smerdyakov, better known as Chameleon. Aaron Taylor Johnson's playing the eponymous Spider-Man villain. Created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, Chameleon debuted in 1963's The Amazing Spider-Man #1, making him one of Peter Parker's oldest foes. The character, as his name implies, is a master of disguise, and it's worth noting he appeared in Spider-Man Far From Home, albeit with a different spelling, Dimitri instead of Dimitri, and a different actor, Naman Akar. It's unclear at this time just how much Chameleon will factor into the plot of Kraven the Hunter, though in June 2021 it was reported that he play a major character in the movie. Kraven the Hunter has been in various stages of development for years. Things picked up steam in 2018 when Richard Wenk was tapped to pen the screenplay. He's since been joined by Art Markham and Matt Holloway, with director J.C. Chandor joining Kraven in 2020. The biggest leap forward came in May 2021 when Taylor Johnson signed on to play Kraven. It's still unclear how Kraven the Hunter will connect to Sony's other Marvel movies. We don't really think of our 900 characters as a Spideyverse. Sony Pictures Motion Picture Group President Sanford Panich said in 2021, "We have a Marvel universe, the volume of characters we have, wait until you see this next Venom. You don't miss Spider-Man. It'll be exciting if they do meet, right?" There actually is a plan. I think now maybe it's getting a little more clear for people where we're headed, and I think when No Way Home comes out, even more will be revealed. No Way Home, of course, opened the floodgates for the multiverse, with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man fighting alongside Tom Holland's Peter Parker in a battle against Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Electro, Lizard, and Sandman from past Spider-Man franchises. Though all toys were seemingly put back in the toy box by the film's conclusion, there have been rumblings about sub-franchises spawning out of No Way Home to allow the villains from Sony's movies to clash with the Spider-Man of their own. Kraven the Hunter arrives in theaters January 13th, 2023. So yeah, that was an article from CBR.com. It just mentions the casting of Chameleon. Kind of forgot that in Spider-Man Far From Home, there was another guy who actually played Chameleon, kind of, but it was a different actor. But he wasn't even actually Chameleon, he didn't transform into, he didn't have the Master of Disguise type of thing, or maybe he did. I just didn't see that in the film, but I kind of forgot that too, that he was kind of like Chameleon, kind of, just by the name alone, I guess. But no, that's kind of cool. I mean, yeah, in the comics, I think they're both brothers, or he's the half-brother of Kraven the Hunter, so that's kind of what I knew about in the comics a little bit. I think I probably did read the original comic with Chameleon in it, probably a long time ago, because I did read the original Spider-Man comics. I'm kind of going back and reading them again a little bit just to refresh myself on it and stuff, and just out of fun. Backstory for me personally is the comics. There was also the 90s cartoon where Chameleon was there, and he didn't talk. He had a belt that he would use to transform into other characters and to sort of fool Spider-Man or something like that. So that was sometimes the case. He was in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. I think he probably was into some other things too. Chameleon is kind of a sort of interesting villain, because I don't know, he's not really supremely threatening, but he's a master of disguise. He can fool Spider-Man in a way kind of quickly. Probably knows martial arts, but he's also sort of half brothers with Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the Hunter, I think, is an interesting villain. It's still kind of weird to me, though, that these characters are kind of getting their own movies, because I really just associate them with just being the straight up villains to Spider-Man in the movies as well as even in the comics. So it's kind of weird. I mean, they can establish the backstories and everything like that for these characters in the movies in the beginning for a Spider-Man film, just to make us understand who they are and their motivations, as opposed to just being oh yeah, let's just make a movie. But I don't know, and make them sort of the protagonists or the heroes in their own movies, and then they become it's weird. Yeah, but I didn't really like the Venom movies as much. They were whatever. They're kind of forgettable. Venom Let There Be Carnage was like the weakest film of last year for me, of 2021. So yeah, like I don't know, but I'm kind of interested to see what they do with Kraven the Hunter, see what they do. You know, I'm still gonna watch it because I'm a fan. Also, Kraven's an interesting character, but like I think with me and like everybody else, I just would have preferred if he just had like a straightforward like movie, like if he was the villain in another Spider-Man movie. Like for instance, like with No Way Home, they could have just made, if they didn't have the multiverse or the villains coming back from other franchises or anything, they could have just made like a third Spider-Man movie with Kraven the Hunter being the villain, like just him being the villain in the movie, and then that's about it. And then they could have just explored it from there, and follow the same sort of pattern. I think that would have been great. But considering that he's not going to be, they did multiverse. I mean, I'm still fine with multiverse, but I still would have preferred if they did Kraven the Hunter as a villain. But it's okay. I think in a future Spider-Man movie somehow they'll find a way to tie it into that whole thing. But it doesn't really bother me that much. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I never heard of that actor before. A lot of these actors or actresses or whoever get cast in these roles, I don't really hear of them at all because I don't really know a lot about. I don't know. Hopefully he'll be great in the role, and we'll see how big of a part Chameleon even has in the movie. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that whole thing. As always, if you want to see some cool, interesting content, like I said, as I mentioned earlier in the video, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I will see you next time.